So, after the end of the last session, where you guys had been, or the end of the last chapter, where you guys had been marooned on the floating flotsam, the wreckage of two ships in the middle of the Dragonmere, this large, very large, almost oceanic inland lake that separates Cormia from where you'd previously been, the Dragon Coast, where you'd been in Westgate. a kraken, a blue kraken, uncommon and completely unheard of to you, but as you'd learned from the crew of the ship that saved you, maybe some kind of omen or ominous figure in local culture or legend. This blue kraken had destroyed the ships that you'd been a part of, and yeah, surviving, you'd tangled with some Merrow who are scavenging the wreckages before being saved by a patrolling military ship, one of Cormia's naval ships, kind of colloquially known as the Blue Dragons. You spoke briefly with Captain DuPont, who the military commander of this ship, just to describe him again quickly. Kind of thick but slicked back brown hair, big mutton chops that kind of go into a handlebar-esque mustache, and you can kind of see at the bottom of his neck some kind of scarring that indicates he even though his face is quite well kept and he looks quite groomed, you can kind of see some kind of sword kisses and some kind of wear and tear of battle, showing he's not just a kind of a leader that doesn't see battle. He's a battle-hardened individual, most likely. And he kind of grilled you quickly about what had happened before kind of firmly requesting, and some of you had kind of observed maybe you don't entirely have a choice, that you stand before the Royal Court of Cormia just to, a big event like this, kind of just bear witness to what's happened. And then you can go about your way in Suzale, and you can, leave if you wish, stay if you wish, do whatever you like, but just go before the court first, just to bear witness to what happened, and tell, as you are the only survivors of the wrecks, just to say what had happened before this court, since it had happened in the waters of Cormia. So, besides from that, on the ship, you had handed over the stone that speaks, which you'd found a long time ago, but in game, about a month or so ago, in the misty ruins where you'd met the amethyst dragon Amarantha. You handed that over to Captain DuPont, who kind of threw it in the ocean, just wishing nothing to do with it, having kind of Cormia having some history with the group that the individual in the stone belonged to. And yeah, you guys sent some sendings to various people over the few days that you go. Just feel free to shake your heads yes or no, or just start speaking. Is there anything else you want to do before you arrive in Suzale? You've cast your sendings for the most part, I think, but is there just anything else you want to be like? I think Jackson, Samara, I think you are doing some preparation of your spells, that you are creating new spells. Yeah, I think you've been working on those. So you said you had one more to do with the night at the tavern, I think, or the night at the inn?
Yeah, so cool. Once we arrive, I've got one more day. So tomorrow, in-game, it should be ready.
Sure. Anya, if anything else you want to say you've done on the ship, or like anything you want to ask anyone, or are you just kind of hanging around until you get to Suzale?
I think I would probably just be training, reading my books, like either the firearms book or the wyvern book I got ages ago on how to deal with wyverns and their various weak points and shit like that.
Yeah, no worries. Anya, what about you? Anything you want to call out, or are you just happy kind of waiting till you get to Suzale?
I'm happy just to wait until we get to Suzale.
Yeah, no worries.
Can I approach it? It doesn't matter what day this was on, to be honest. It's just a small conversation. I'll just approach him and say, I see you finally tried out the shield.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I may have forgotten I had it for a little bit, and then I was like, oh wait, I have this. But it's because I'm so used to using two hands, it's just kind of like a backup. It's a nice background.
Maybe it's because Bradley didn't put it on your magic item sheet. Whoops.
For a man of strategy, kind of disappointed in you.
That's harsh. That's real harsh.
Well, I got abuse for just trying to make a card faster, and I'll walk away, smirking. Just kind of like joshing with him a little bit.
Trying to make a cart.
You guys notice your whole time on the ship. You know, you have kind of passing pleasantries with the Captain Dupont. You can talk to anyone you like, but you kind of pick up the 2.5 days, really, or maybe 3 days you spend on the ship. You pick up that the Purple Dragons, who are kind of like the guard / foot soldier of Cormier, who also man the ship for the most part. They are very courteous and polite, even out on the ship. Probably less so than in the city, but they still wear quite a lot of armor. You imagine in the city, most of them wear kind of heavy armor and like helmets and stuff like that. But on the ship, they're wearing kind of just their underneath like brigandine, and not wearing their helmet. Some of them have them with it, have it with them, but not like on at all times. And you can see like the Purple Dragon insignia on their chest for the most part. The Purple Dragons are quite courteous and polite, and they'll talk to you. But the War Wizards, kind of these yellow and blue robed combat wizards that kind of intersperse the crew, they are a lot less so. They're a lot more aloof, and they kind of eye you suspiciously, and sometimes kind of they've kind of got this evil eye on you a lot of the time. But for the most part, the Purple Dragons make fair enough traveling companions. So, as you kind of see Suzail in the far distance, and it grows closer as you arrive in the port of the city, it is fairly late on that day. It is currently like the time of year you're in. You're kind of you're in the early phase of spring. So sunset isn't like as late as it could be, but it's not early either. It's, kind of fairly like late in the day. So the sun isn't quite. The sun is only just starting to set. The eye is getting a kiss of. The sky is getting like a slight kiss of orange in it. But for the most part, it's a nice cloudless day. But there are stray clouds coming in here and there. And yeah, you get that kiss of orange that fades into blue as you are coming into port. So just to kind of give you a taste of the city, so you can better picture it. Again, you can like look up a map, or you can find it in the Google Drive if you want to kind of see the layout. But just based on kind of probably what you've heard in your past, just kind of being in this world, hearing from some of the Purple Dragons and the War Wizards and the crew on the ship, and just like visual as you go in. I'll kind of read this as you go in. Suzail is the royal capital and richest city in Cormier, and it is home to all of the most important noble houses and merchant houses in the country. The city is divided into 2 distinct districts. The centre of the city is the royal court, containing the palace, the royal gardens, and numerous noble estates. The royal court is separated from the rest of the city by Lake Azun, which serves as a small natural moat. A long semicircular street known as the Promenade runs along Lake Azun from Eastgate to Horngate, defining the border between the royal court and Suzail proper. South of the Promenade lies the common portion of the city, where rows of neat little shops and houses line the streets. To the east stands the market hall, where farmers from outside the city gather early each morning to sell their wares. The houses and shops on the north of town, near the promenade, are typically tall, narrow, and well kept, and gradually grow less impressive as one nears the docks and open market. All of the buildings in Suzail are stone by civic law to prevent fire and damage from the wind and rain that sweeps in off the Dragonmere. To the south, along the banks of the Dragonmere, are 3 distinct harbours. To the west is the Basin, a deep harbour that is regularly dredged and can accommodate up to 20 large ships. The central harbour can accommodate up to 30 large ships and dozens of smaller crafts. This is the primary harbour for commercial vessels. The easternmost harbour contains the royal docks, used by the Cormiran Navy, known colloquially as the Blue Dragons. A mighty 80-foot-tall curtain wall surrounds the landward side of the city. Purple dragons and war wizards maintain a large garrison within the city's barracks on the far southeastern side of town, and the Imperial Navy is harboured in the royal docks. Those coming in to Suzail from other large cities in Faerun, like yourselves, are often astounded by its relative cleanliness and lack of slums. City authorities would claim that the cleanliness is largely the result of civic pride, while its lack of shantytowns or slums is largely due to the abundance of opportunity and relative safety of areas outside of Suzail's walls. There is some truth to both statements, but in fact the small size of the city proper, high rents, and abundance of regulation and legal enforcement leads to poorer citizens and those with criminal intent making their way to the nearby city of Marzember instead. Guards in Suzail are friendly and courteous, though the war wizards who often accompany them are significantly less so. Knowingly lying to a city guard is a criminal offence, incurring a fine of no less than 20 gold pieces, and placement on a list of known lawbreakers. Outlanders who violate this law are often instead exiled on the spot. Suzail maintains a strict curfew, though legitimate traders may acquire a license to load and unload caravans after dark. Order is maintained after dark, at least partially, due to its well-lit streets, with each corner bearing an oil lamp in a large metal cage suspended by pulleys and chains from black cast iron brackets mounted to the walls. In the wealthier parts of town to the north, such lamps are more frequent, several to a block, and are mounted instead on tall, freestanding poles. Many private residences also have a lamp in a window on the inside sill to allow the light to shine out onto the street below. The only area of the city not well lit is the western heart of the city, known as the Dark Streets, and is primarily residences for unskilled labourers. So like I said, you kind of pick most of that up from your prior knowledge, kind of conversation or question asking on the ship, and just what you can visually see as the ship docks and as you step out from the ship, or as you are led out from the ship by Captain Reynard and a retinue of his purple dragons. About 4 or 5 of these knights accompany him and you guys. So yeah, you come down off the ship into these docks, and these docks are familiar to all of you. You know, each of you comes from a vastly culturally different city, but all of them being large, economically important port cities. So, you know, you're each used to ports. And it is familiar, but it is, like I just said, much cleaner and much more well organized than, definitely more so than Westgate or Baldur's Gate. Probably Anya, it probably looks most similar to you, to Waterdeep, with Waterdeep being a kind of a metropolitan city, but even this is much cleaner than Waterdeep. Waterdeep does kind of veer into the seedy side in the docks, but this is very well organized and well kept. You see kind of the standard affair, you know, people coming in and off ships, unloading goods and loading the ships with new stock from Cormia, or from Suzail specifically for the most part. But besides from that, you know, the specific harbour you guys arrive in is the military harbour, where the Blue Dragons dock their ships, not in the commercial harbour or in the deep harbour in the centre or to the west. You come into the East Harbour. And so there is much more Blue Dragons, Purple Dragons, and War Wizards in this part of the city. And I'll just finish this kind of thought, and then you guys can jump out if there's anything else you wanted to do. But Captain Reynard DuPont, and this retinue of Purple Dragons, they kind of escort you to a very but by the time they get you off the ship, and you know, the captain kind of barks his orders, tells his crew what he wants them to do, and kind of figures out what he's about next, and he does send a messenger ahead of him to tell the court that tomorrow he will be coming at a certain time to with you to bear witness, blah 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 blah. You know, you kind of overhear that happening. He is now going to escort you to a place, an inn called the Myrmidon, which he kind of offhandedly says is owned by two brothers who are retired members of the Purple Dragons. and it's kind of frequented by other purple dragons because it's owned by someone who was formerly of their order. But yeah, for the most part, you guys leave the military quadrant, the docks, and you head through the city streets. Pretty much, you just walk along this street I'd mentioned, this very large street, the promenade, and it's very striking. So it's just a road, it's not walled on either side, but to the right, you have this vast green area with this complex, this green area of the royal gardens with this kind of complex of judicial buildings, and kind of looming over that is this very fantastical castle with kind of purple roofing here and there and purple banners flying from bits, and just many spires that kind of looms over it. And then beyond all that, you can see the curtain wall, and to the left you can see the city. For the most part, as you walk along the promenade, this very wide road, there's a lot of thoroughfare as well. But you see the nicer buildings, and you can kind of see them teeter off to being poorer down by the ocean further on. But yeah, is there anything you would like to do, or anything you'd like to say to the captain or any of this retinue, or just anything you'd like to try and look for? I mean, you're not really allowed to stray, so you can't go anywhere. But is there anything you just want to call out before you get to the inn?
I want to turn to the captain.
Sure.
I'll go. So, normal military behavior between different sanctions or whatever you want to call your parts of the military. There's usually a friendly sort of way of rustling each other up, so to speak. Purple dragons, blue dragons. Do you guys have a friendly rivalry? Is there a different set of dragons who are seen as the weak man's dragon compared to you guys who will be the strong dragons? I'm trying to basically ask in a sort of way when in England the SAS is usually seen as the top dogs and the Navy is seen as
RAF, SA, the different branches of the military. Sure. He kind of chuckles. I see the confusion, but no, we are all purple dragons. I suppose it might be more helpful to think about it like the ships are the blue dragons and us aboard are the purple dragons. But it sometimes gets confused to not only foreigners like yourselves, but even among the non-military portions of the city. But no, Cormier is a unified country. But we have just finished a long war, and people find themselves most unified at the end of a war. Perhaps it will fraction as time goes on.
Well, a little friendly joshing around between sections.
He kind of leans in. You are just on a ship with us for 3 days. The war wizards are a different breed. There is commonality among us, but they are cold, irritating, and they believe them certainly better than the common folk and better than us at times. But as long as they do not think themselves better than the Queen, we have no quarrel.
And I just turn to him and go, magic users, eh? Annoying little bastards.
He kind of gives you a wink and says that they are, as you guys walk along. And at this point, as you guys are probably walking the promenade, so from the military docks to the and the Myrmidon, the inn you're going to, is right on the promenade. You can see it on the map of Suzail, the main map of Suzail. It's kind of on a corner, facing towards the kind of the complexes and the palaces, the royal quadrant of the city. But the sun is not. It isn't dark out yet, but that the top of the sky is getting to that very deep ocean blue, and then it kind of fades into light blue, and then that yellow and orange. The sky is much more dramatic now that you're walking through the city, and you can see the moon, Selune, named after the goddess of the moon, and the Tears of Selune, the kind of asteroid belt that follows it, very high and proud in the sky. And for the first time in a long while, the sky has been very clear, and so you can really get a good look at it. And it's very, growing up in this world, you've seen it many times before, but as this is the first time it's happened in the campaign. It's a very beautiful sight. You know, you've caught Selune and Patiers before, but now you get a really good look at them, and it's a very striking image just as you make your way to the Myrmidon. So, you arrive at the Myrmidon. You know, you see kind of standard affair. It's a fairly tall. It doesn't look particularly wide inside. Like, it doesn't look like a lot of foot area for one given floor, but it's a very tall building. Kind of this corner. Imagine kind of like a shrunk version of the Flatiron Building in New York. It's like a corner building, and it's very kind of not rickety, but like, you know, it's one of those very tall, narrow, kind of almost leaning buildings. If you imagine like an old-timey city or a fantasy city with a slated roof. And you can see the warm yellow lights of the tavern on the bottom floor, and some of the upstairs room lights that kind of flicker on as the darkness sets in. And as you walk in, you see the purple dragons, the retinue that had accompanied you, very comfortable in this space. This is clearly the go-to for people in the service or who have been in the service. But you maybe see a few people around who you don't think are either, you know, they're not wearing any livery of the purple dragons and they look too young to have retired. So you think maybe, you know, there are people that aren't purple dragons that come here, but for the most part, that's the clientele. And you kind of hear shouts and well wishes to Captain DuPont as he returns them as you walk in, and he greets he kind of leaves you standing with two of the purple dragons in the tap room. Not a huge space, maybe like 4 or 5 tables and a bar front, and kind of 1 or 2 lounge-like booths. So not a huge space, much smaller than the Elfsong Tavern that you'd been used to in Baldur's Gate. But this place doesn't primarily function as a tavern. This is mainly an inn, and it has kind of a soft serve tavern on the bottom floor just for people who are coming for the night. And you see, so DuPont kind of leaves you with these 2 purple dragons, 2 young people, one kind of a young human man, kind of a messy blonde mop, and the other a brown-haired human girl with kind of her hair into a tight ponytail. They both look like they're in like their early to mid 20s. They're fairly young, and kind of wearing kind of armoring, like heavy armor, like gauntlets and pauldrons. But you know, for the most part, they're wearing like half armor. They're wearing like leather in most places, but a bit of metal here and there. Who kind of watch over you for 5 minutes while he goes to sort out your rooms, get you rooms for the night. And you very much get the impression that you're under supervision for the night, but you have no reason to believe that after you go to the court tomorrow, you're not free to go. You very much. I mean, you can if anyone doesn't trust that, you can try and do an insight check if you like, but otherwise, you don't see a reason why that isn't the case. So yeah. Is there anything you'd like to do while you're kind of waiting for DuPont to give you room keys and send you up, or anything like that?
Can I turn to one of the younger guards, like the 2 who are sat supervising us 2?
Do you want to turn to both of them or one specifically?
Is it like one either side, or is it like 2 stood just straight behind us together, or like how
so he's kind of left you. So there's 2 booths to like the side of the room with 2 windows in each booth. You 3 are kind of standing at the dividing wall between the booths, and you see the younger guy. He's kind of sat down on the edge of the lounge seat at the booth, and the woman is kind of, or girl, is still kind of standing on the other side of you. Yeah, they're not like hostile towards you or anything, and you've probably exchanged words with them, and they've been perfectly lovely. But they've been told to watch you, and so they're doing it. But they're not on guard. They don't distrust you at all.
I'll turn to whichever one is, if it's one either side-ish. I'll turn to whichever side I'm on. Obviously, one.
Sure,
will be closer. I'll just turn to
the younger man, probably the guy sitting.
Yeah, I'll turn to him and I'll go. So, what is fun to do in the city? Any nice places to view? Any nice theatres? I don't know, somewhere to play some sports or something.
He's kind of running his hand through his hair, like shaking it out, and then he rests his elbow on the table, and he kind of thinks for a moment. I mean, Suzail is a cultured city. There are theatres, galleries, the sort. Nothing particularly jumps to mind, but I'm sure you can find something of the like. In terms of sights, I mean, you caught a glimpse of the royal court, but you'll obviously see more tomorrow when we go to court. But most of Cormier's wonders lie outside the city walls, I would say.
Oh, can I flick my like without moving the rest of my body? Just kind of turn my head to the woman, if possible, unless she sits straight behind me because I can't do 180 degrees. And say, what about you then? Do you think there's anything nice to do inside the walls, my fair lady?
Make a persuasion check, because you called her my fair lady.
It's a 15 plus something. 19.
19. Okay.
I love it when Ellis smirks as if like, what's he doing?
Don't know how to react to that. I mean, these are words samurai don't normally use. I mean, what? My fair lady. The theatre. Not once of these two things come up in this campaign. Of all 26 episodes, including this one, I've never once heard you mention theatre.
Some people just
Change.
know the people around them.
Right.
You see, she kind of there's a Timoran temple, goddess of luck. There's a fair bit of gambling that goes on there, but you didn't hear that from me. Other than that, I suppose in terms of fun, there's the Adventurers Society. Yes, I suppose. Like Edward said, there are theatres and galleries and gambling halls as such, but Cormier's charm lies in the country.
And then I'll turn to make sure they know I'm addressing both of them and go, thank you very much for your kindness. I'm sure at some point, if you're ever free, I'd be happy to go with someone who knows the area. And I'll turn back to these two.
They both kind of of course. They seem, you can't tell whether it's genuine or not, but they kind of, you're not sure if, it almost seems so uniform at this point, almost kind of eerie, where every purple dragon you've spoken to is very nice. And it's kind of bordering on irritating, because you're not sure if they're genuinely being nice or if they have to be nice.
Can I do an insight check?
Sure.
Yeah, but 16's good, but what's the plus? It's plus 0, so it's 16.
They both seem pretty genuine, but you get the sense that Edward, the boy, he takes it more seriously. He thinks it's a genuine thing, and the young lady who you haven't got the name of, she thinks you're just saying it as a courtesy thing. So she's just agreeing as a courtesy, but she doesn't. You don't feel like the intention of it, where you get the intention to follow through from Edward.
His name was Edward, wasn't it?
The guy is called Edward.
Alright, thank you.
Oh no! You've just given him incentive to you sending more.
That's me done for now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. We make our own monsters, Ellis.
Jackson's made about 20 at this point.
Yeah, well, that's his cross. That's my cross to bear. Yeah. A few moments later, Reynard kind of approaches. You see him kind of from the far. You hear this raucous laugh, and you're kind of you instinctively turn over, and you see him and who you take to be the two retired brothers, kind of dark hair, but with quite a lot of grey in them. One with a beard and the other without. But two fairly burly men, but kind of losing it a bit. They're not in the service anymore, so they're kind of getting a bit pudgy, but you can see the ghost of muscle lingering around them. They're sharing a very big laugh. One of them's just said something funny, but you didn't hear what. And a few moments later, you hear, you see DuPont return with 3 kind of keys on a loop, 3 different loops with a room number at the end, and he drops one into each of your hands and says, "Your rooms for the night."
Thank you. Do you know what time our trial will be tomorrow? Not trial, but
I am waiting.
is it? What's this? It's not trial. It's a
You are just to bear testimony. I see no reason why it should not take longer than 15 or so minutes once we get there, but I am waiting for my messenger to return. But I will suspect about late morning, noon tomorrow. About high sun, perhaps earlier.
Oh yeah, I turn to him and go. I'll turn to Edward. Yeah, I'll turn to
Sure.
Edward at this time. I'll go. And I'll say it's like the whole group could hear, but I'll really be looking at Edward, so to speak, not in like a creepy way, but in a friendly way, and go. Oh, I guess best to wake up around 8 AM latest then. Make sure I can brush my feathers, look pretty on the court.
That would be excellent, sir. Kind of, DuPont gives you a little bow. You see Edward kind of chuckles, but he kind of like hides it behind a hand as he's kind of brushing some of his stubble down.
what kind of what kind of
Mhm.
attire do you want us in? Do you want us in our normal clothes? Do you want us in fancy-ish?
You can wear whatever is most comfortable. You are not a member of the court. There is no uniform expected of you. You are witnesses. You can wear whatever you like. But if you'd like to look more presentable, you may. That is up to you.
I can't. I just realised all the suits are gone.
There is a tailor in. There are many a tailor, but there is a tailor I am familiar with. Though he is not a. He can be pricey, I suppose.
Right. Okay. It'll be alright, I think.
Very well. He mainly does weddings anyway, so I suppose. Very well.
Weddings,
He kind
you
of.
say?
He kind of turns. It's a bit far.
Oh. I can keep it in the bag of holding. I'll only ruin it by the time we get to
I
it.
thought you meant like. Is he going to be tailoring the wedding?
Take
only
him
like
there.
2,000 miles away.
Nah, I'm just, a nice suit for the wedding.
Right.
But to be fair, by the time it comes around, we're probably going to destroy it. I mean, what, in this time of this campaign? It's been, 2 months or something like that in game? We've gone through 4 suits.
Happens to the best of us.
So,
I'm pretty sure Anya's dress is fine. So
yeah, Anya's
You
dress
guys
is
have no
fine, but
problem.
we
Only
had,
2 suits which have been ripped up, because mine off my wings and yours off a tiger. Or a
yeah.
lion.
Lion. Well, yeah,
And
but
then-
Anya doesn't fight any lions in a nice suit.
Yeah, but then there's also the Kraken. I had my suit on to go into, like,
I don't even remember wearing a dress.
it was for the party where I
Yeah.
found incest people.
masked part.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There was the one that I had when we got on the boat for the Kraken, and the Kraken destroyed it. / mer people.
Actually, I think Anya was wearing kind of like a
Fancy.
lady suit for that,
Yeah.
because I think she still wanted pants for like maneuverability in case things went to shit.
What she had
Oh.
You could put on a woman's suit, Ellis. Put on a lady.
Well, no, because that's definitely holy. Because Jess is probably. Well, Jess got beat up quite a bit during that fight, so that's definitely not in one piece.
In what fight?
The Kraken.
I don't think
She wasn't wearing it for the Kraken, she was wearing it for the party, wasn't
party.
she? She didn't wear anything for the Kraken because she was just a journalist, so she just.
Yeah, I know, but I
kept her
thought she was in
clothes.
like relatively nice, fancy clothes then.
No, but I think you bought those separate.
Yeah.
We got them, yeah, we
Um,
bought a new set of clothes.
You see DuPont kind of clicks at one of his other purple dragons, and you see this a little bit older than the other two, maybe closer to 30, but not a human, a tiefling kind of approaches, still a purple dragon, but tiefling kind of reddish skin with like small horns, and kind of black hair. And he says, "These 3 will be stationed outside of your rooms overnight. Do not take it as insult. You have shown us no reason to distrust you, but it is protocol until you have bear witness. Hope you understand." And he kind of turns to the three, the young man, the young woman, and the tiefling, who's also a nearly 30-year-old man, and says, please show them to their rooms, and I will see you all tomorrow morning. Is there anything else you wish to ask of me before I leave?
No. I'm going to hold this question back.
Okay. Well, I will see you tomorrow morning. Sleep well. And he kind of takes some of his belongings that he'd left on the table, kind of scoops them up, and heads out into the night. So the young woman goes with you, Samara. The young man goes with you, Anya, and the tiefling goes with you, Itha. They just kind of follow you up, and they're just going to kind of sit on a chair outside your bedroom door overnight, like not much. And you have 3 rooms next to each other, so you can, at points during the night, you can hear them having like hushed conversation and taking turns while one kind of gets in shut eye, and they kind of rotate. But you can mostly drown it out. It's not particularly loud. So they'll kind of give you a little bit of free reign to. You're allowed to, like, if you want to open the door and join their conversation for a bit, you can if you like. Like, they're not hostile to you. If you want to, like, go next door and knock on one of each other's doors, you can. But otherwise, you guys can just go to sleep and get the night over with. Sure, somewhere else.
Yeah.
It makes me uncomfortable when you giggle for 5 minutes before.
I'd like to open the door and start talking with like the 3 of them, and I'd like to have like a good like half an hour's worth of like small talk.
Uh-huh.
Again, like still trying to be quiet, respectful of the other people around, stuff like that. Or you just try and join in and get comfortable with them. Can I make like some sort of like whatever check would be good for making friends?
Let's have
Persuasion.
Let's say,
I guess charisma in general.
Yeah, we'll say just make a charisma check with advantage, because they seem, very open.
That's a 16.
16? Okay. Yeah. You can see the 2 humans seem pretty warm to you. The tiefling doesn't seem hostile, but he doesn't seem to particularly warm, other than courtesy.
And then, like, I want to be known, like, I came out of my room with nothing on me, so I haven't got my staff, I've got my robot, obviously. I'm not
just so you can picture it. So, like, your 3 bedroom doors are, like, along the hall, on one side of the hall next to each other, and on the opposite side of the hall aren't any rooms, just windows. The tiefling is kind of leaning on a windowsill, kind of arms crossed, in the conversation. And the 2 humans are kind of chairs pulled up kind of close to each other, but one of them isn't in their chair. The young man is standing, and the girl is kind of sitting, kind of half leaning on the other chair that he isn't sitting in, and they're all just kind of like snacking on some things they brought with them. Sorry, Finn, finish your thought there.
I want to, like, I've come out with like none of my stuff. I've just got like my robe, not my spellbook, not my staff, not anything like that. And I want to turn to Edward, since he's probably my most friendly man here. Mm-hmm. And I'll say like,
just so the young lady is called Janine, and the tiefling is called Tsitsi. T-Z-I.
I just spelled Janine.
Janine.
Okay, that's how it. That's the presumable spelling, but I wasn't sure.
Edward, Janine, and Tsitsi.
I'll turn to Edward, because he's probably my most friendly person at this point, and say, it's understandable if not, but is there any available way if one of you comes with me, Edward? Just to sit outside and get some fresh air, just before I go get some rest. You can handcuff me or tie my arms up or anything. I don't mind.
You can see the humans are. Edward kind of leans back, and he's like, there's a bit of roof outside the window. We could open the window and sit out on the roof. And Tsitsi is like, no, They stay here.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah.
And Earth
I
and
hope-
Anya, you can probably hear Samura outside the room. If at any point you want to, hang out outside, you don't have to. Yeah, sorry, what were you saying, Samura?
I'll just turn to him and say, like, addressing the group still, but really talking to him a lot. Understandable. I knew it'd be a long shot. I understand. I hope I haven't spoiled the atmosphere in any sort of way. And I'll just stay, like, for like about another half an hour where I'll keep talking and then probably head to bed.
Sure. Kind of near the end of that half an hour, Edward goes down to get kind of some drinks. Actually, he'll say, "Is there anything you want, Samura?"
It's unlikely you guys have it, but I may as well for a long shot. Have you ever heard of Roll Rum? It's an unalcoholic version.
I've never heard of it. And Janine kind of shakes her head, and you see CT nods, and he's like, "Probably not here, I'm afraid." CT kind of stands, kind of puts his hands on the edge of the windowsill as he kind of pulls himself up. Sue's Ale has its own brand of alcohols. Sue's Ale, very creative, I'm aware.
Is there
You see Edward says, "My favorite is Rayla's Red," which he describes as a red amber ale made in the coastal lands of Cormier and Sembia, with 3 roast barleys, citrus rinds, and spices, and drunk throughout most of eastern Cormier, Sembia, and the Dale lands. Janine kind of says, I much prefer Samsark myself, which she describes as a bitter, strong-tasting but light on the stomach ale, which is typically served by cheap taverns because patrons can drink a lot before feeling like ill from it. Tastes of orange rind and is made by many brewers using a widely known method, leading to a wide range of quality. And after a few moments of silence, TT doesn't say anything, or that he just says the name. He just says Old Black Goblin, which he describes as a porter that contains cherrywood, ash, and licorice root. Old Black Goblin is expensive and available only in the finest taverns of Cormier and Sembia. Its origins are somewhat shrouded in mystery and is rumoured to be brewed in secret by a noble family of Cormier that tightly controls the brewing and distribution process. Imitation Black Goblin sometimes makes its way into smaller taverns, though the real stuff is distinguishable from the imitations due to the special kegs branded with a hunched black stick figure.
Yeah, I'll turn to them and I'll say, again, not to cross a line. Of course, it's understandable if not. But if the bartender's still down there, and I presume there's plenty of people, would it be safe for me to go with Edward and actually have a look at the drinks? And just see if they'll let me
they
go
kind of
down.
they look at CT, and CT says, "I will go with you. Edward, you stay here." And he kind of stands up from the windowsill and he says, "Come."
I'll follow.
And yeah, so remembering their preferences, CT will order a Rayla's Red and a Samsark and an Old Black Goblin for himself. Is there any you would like? Or you can just have standard bitter ale or stuff like that.
I want to ask the bartender if there's anything, even if he can make it on the spot, anything which he can make which is non-alcoholic but quite sweet, and see if he can do the sugar lining on the top of the glass, like what's his face did in the
Alan.
Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Alan.
CT just kind of CT says his order, and then he says, "And my friend will have," and he looks down at you. Yeah, this guy is you're pretty tall, but CT, the tiefling with the black hair and the kind of curled horns, he's kind of got these piercing yellow eyes. He looks down at you. He doesn't come off as hostile. He just comes off as very cautious. Looks down at you. "My friend will have," and you turn to one of these retired purple dragons. You see the other one has kind of disappeared into an area you can't quite see, but the other one is kind of giving you a good eye. And as you describe it, he's like, "I can I can put some sugar in some milk or water. I think I might have some mint leaves or some orange rinds somewhere.
That could be nice. A sugar water with some mint leaves and orange rinds, if you will.
At your service. Then he kind of starts getting out some money, and he's like, "Nonsense! It's nothing. That one's on the house." And he kind of whips you. You see him like sprinkle some sugar into a tankard of water, and he kind of gets out the butt of a spoon and kind of quickly grinds it up. And then you see him flicks a mint leaf in it a few times and lets it soak. And then you see he kind of chops up a bit of orange rind and kind of gives it a quick wash around in there before taking them out and pushing it over to you, with the mint leaf still sitting in the bottom.
Yeah, I'll have a drink. I presume I like it because it's very sweet and it's kind of like what's
Yeah, it just tastes like sugar and mint and stuff you like in general.
I'll say, thank you very much. It's wonderful. And I'll turn to. I can't believe I've already forgot his name, but I'll turn to the tiefling and
It's
go,
a weird one. Tsitsi, T-Z-I-T-Z-I. Tsitsi.
Pizzi.
Tsitsi, yeah.
Right, okay. I'll turn to him and I'll go, if you want, I can grab another drink and carry two each because it just makes sense.
Of course. And he hands Edward's Rayla's Red, this amber ale to you, and he carries Janine's Samsark and his old black goblin.
On the way back up the stairs, can I talk to him about? I'll just turn to him and say, as we're going, just the entire journey up, just kind of turn to him and go, I'm really not one for alcohol. That's why I kind of prefer the sweeter things. Some would call me a sweet bug. That's why I wanted to come down and talk to him. I'm sorry if it was an inconvenience.
He kind of takes a drink of his old black goblin. You see this very black swill, this drink that you see a bit of it run down the side of his face. And as you kind of walk up the stairs, he kind of chuckles. And as you get to the top of the stairs, you notice he intentionally stays out of earshot of Edward and Janine. And he says, as he finishes a drink, he kind of smiles and he says, "You have the stink of the hells on you." And he kind of keeps walking towards Janine and Edward. So, yeah, as you get to the top of the stairs, just staying out of earshot, he kind of says, "You have the stink of the hells on you," as he approaches, and as they see them, they're like, "Hey!" And he kind of hands Janine her drink, and Edward reaches out his hand to you to take his Rayla's Red, and he takes it, and they go back to the thingy. But you notice, unless there's anything else you want to say to them, just as you get
insight check it.
Yeah, go for it.
Just insight check what he said. That's a 7. 7.
You didn't feel malice. You don't feel threatened or hostile, but you just, I don't know how to describe it. You feel like someone's seen you. You feel like you had a secret you thought you were keeping, and someone's just offhandedly mentioned it to you, and you didn't get the sense of anything in particular. It just, you don't feel threatened. I feel fine telling you that, but you feel like he knows something. You don't know if he knows exactly what, or if he just knows that, like what he said, you have the stink of the hells on you. You don't know if he knows any more than that, or if that's all he knows.
Yeah, I think I'll keep chatting away, and I'm gonna really try and butter up Edward and Janine, and it's not even in a deceiving way. As Samura, I think he just what Samura's trying to do right now is basically all the cities he went to, he's ended up kind of just in Baldur's
networking.
Gate. Well, I feel like in Baldur's Gate he didn't really even network. He met the druid and he met the tavern keeper, and they're the only two people who he likes and he thinks likes him. Mm-hmm. And then everyone else, he just kind of felt like an outsider. And then in wow, we were just there and I've already forgot its name.
Westgate?
Yeah, Westgate. I feel like because there was the red, Ellis's religion was there, kind of didn't feel like his place again. Felt like he kind of, especially with wow, I am forgetting every name today. the mage who
How dare you not
teleports
know
there.
every name in this
Yeah.
made-up book?
I'm forgetting I thought of River Sub. The mage who teleported us there. I feel like Westgate, and because it was a
Halari.
fighting arena. Yeah, and because it was a fighting arena and I was a scrawny bird, it wasn't my place. But I think the second time around I see Suzail and enters, it's kind of like, I'm dressed finely. I look colourful and bright. This could be a place for me to like properly
I will say as well,
pretend to be rich.
walking through the promenade, this very wide street that kind of serves as a boundary between the nice Lake Azun, the gardens, the castle, and then like the actual city part of the city. People looked at you, but just gave you like a nice nod, cursory. This is the first time in maybe since you've been in Port Nyanzaru where Aarakocra are a bit more common, but Port Nyanzaru is kind of a dirty place, a seedy place. No one here is scared of you or made uncomfortable by you or weirded out by you. People just look at you and give you, the same way walking through a pleasant street, someone might give Anya a smile and a nod, or might give Eartha a smile and a nod. They don't treat you any different here. This is the first time in maybe ever where you felt unconditionally like you just blend in, like you're part of the population here.
Yeah, and I think Samara, for that reason, in this town especially, like in Suzail, he's going to try and not reinvent himself, but probably the best way of describing it, try and be the posh guy. Because Avarondax was quite uptight and holding himself high. So I think Samara will know a lot of the ideals from that sort of way and try and be polite to everyone and trying to basically be like a polite posh person. So he's going to try and like butter up the guards, but not to deceive them, but just because he's reinventing himself, so to speak.
Yeah. Is there anything else like specific you want to talk to like Tsitsi, Janine, or Edward about, or anything you want to ask them or say to them or anything like that, or just general stuff?
I think I'll ask them about just generally the west side of the town and how bad it gets, and also about like how they view like not the elites as in like lawfully, but like just like the high up merchants and just rich people in general.
Sure. Just to kind of generalize, you kind of get a swell of pride from Edward as he tells you Suzail is the only city he knows of where there is no thieves guild operating in the city. The Purple Dragons have kept the city free of organized crime. Crime still happens, people still break the law, but it's as individuals and small groups. There are no organized crime syndicates like the Guild in Baldur's Gate or the Fire Knives in Westgate. And Cormier and Westgate have kind of history, and he kind of spits as he mentions the Fire Knives. And he probably tells you a while ago, and even still, the Fire Knives do try and move into Suzail and Cormier, but they've rebuffed them so far. So you see him swell with pride of that. They tell you the dark streets are the most common place for crime, where there isn't as much light. But even then, it's not because the people that live there are most of the unskilled laborers. They kind of stick together, so not much crime actually happens. They kind of sell this place as almost like a paradise, like Ba Sing Se in Avatar. Like they kind of, you can make an insight if you choose, but an insight check if you want. But you get the sense they genuinely believe, like maybe they're not true, but there is no shantytown here. There is no organized thieves guild. Maybe that's because they're part of the upper crust and they just don't see the stuff that's wrong. But they genuinely believe this is a really great place.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to insight check them. I'm just going to take them at their word, and then I think I'll finish my drink, stay like an extra couple of minutes so not to look rude, and then like say my pleasantries and go to bed. But I'll work on my spell to get that done, and then go to bed so I have it the next morning.
Sure.
Also, can I pray to Tiamat as well before I go to sleep?
Sure. Yeah. So you do some work on your spell, kind of staying up into the wee hours, and then you kind of whisper a prayer. Is there anything specific you want to say, or just general stuff?
I am allowed to pray in my head, aren't I? Without saying out loud.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll do it that way. And I think in my head I'll say something along the lines of, it's been a little while and I did turn into that dragon. What's next? What's the next big thing? What's the point? And then I'll wait a couple of seconds, and if nothing happens, I'll go to bed.
Mm-hmm. You get into bed and you fall asleep very quickly as you kind of cast an idle eye out of your room's window, looking at the moon and the trailing asteroid belt behind it, and looking out at the stars. The stars kind of twinkle out till there's just black outside the window. The moon fades out. The walls begin to fade to black as the firelights in your room die out, till everything's black. You feel yourself in that black void, that place you've been before. And you feel, although you don't feel yourself stand, you don't sense that, you feel you're not awake anymore, you feel you're somewhere else. And you feel your talons, your feet kind of touch the cold. And as you kind of straighten yourself out and your eyes they don't adjust to the darkness, you see there's nothing to see except for kind of the faint glimmer of black liquid at your feet that you can still stand on, or it's not particularly deep at least. And you hear the voice from behind you. How do you like your new wings?
A lot bigger than the old ones.
She kind of chuckles.
Can I want to make sure, like, when I'll turn around and look at her, and I want to see if there's, like, also just observe anything else around if I turn around and if there's more stuff there than just her.
As you turn, you see, like, you capture the familiar image of the Dark Lady. This kind of Mulan, kind of similar skin tone to Eartha, a bit lighter, but almost looking like from a similar part of the world, the Eastern Old Empires. Long dark hair and a black kind of lacy, exposing dress that kind of bleeds into the black night around you. And she kind of shifts from your vision, kind of following out of your vision, but as you continue to turn, she kind of stops and stands still and lets you look upon her. And as you look beyond her, all you see is void. Make a perception check.
Using my eyes? Yeah, presumably it's using my eyes, which makes
yes,
it,
and none of your exhaustion factors into it.
Yeah, it's 14, and my exhaustion's over because I only had 1 point, and it's been like 5 days.
Cool. 14, did you say?
Yes.
The best way I can describe this is, there are like animals or plants that have a part of them that is meant to look like something else.
Snapping turtle.
To like lure. Say again?
A snapping turtle. They have the little like worm on their tongue.
Yeah, like she is a woman. You see a woman, a 3D full woman, but it's almost like she's a facade. Something that's something bigger and something worse is behind it. And this is almost just like the bit you get to see. And you haven't felt the snap yet. You feel like you're almost in a trap, but she's so beautiful and comforting and motherly, but almost lovely in a seductive way as well. So confusing and so evil in many ways. Logically, this Dark Lady is an evil presence, but that motherly embrace, that motherly warmth, that comfort kind of puts you at ease. And even though you kind of, for the first time, you sense that, like snapping turtle-esque, this is a facade and there is something, you kind of, the images of Tiamat that you've seen in books, this 5-headed dragon, this gargantuan beast with 5 heads of each a different color, you can almost see the outline of it in the dark above you and around you, all-consuming. But the Dark Lady is all you see. And even though you almost feel like a bird in a cage or a mouse in a trap, when you look at her, you feel free for now.
Obviously, Samara knows she's Tiamat, so I think I'll turn to her and I'll go, first things first. I mean, I know why you do it, but why not just drop the fake disguise? Is it not more comfortable to be you? I don't hide behind my spells 24/7.
She kind of lifts her arms up and looks at them. Do you not like the way I look?
Well, you look nice. Beautiful, some would say, I guess. I'm sure you've been told it many a times, but I mean, as much as this is a matter of friendships, at this point it's also a matter of business, and I've never seen a dragon with 5 heads. It'll be rather interesting too. Only dragon
They grow up so fast. You will see me, but not yet.
if that's your wishes.
It
So,
is.
what are we going to talk about today?
You wanted to talk to me.
Yes, but you usually only answer when you have something to say. To be honest, never expected you to. Even
You see
back
like
then.
and you do see malice in this. Not hate, but like mischief, as a smile does curl across her face as you say like, yeah, but you only usually show up when you have something you want from me. You are close. Closer than you've been in a long while. So I thought I'd make the time to let you know that I am still on your side. I am always here, Samira.
Well, I guess that's always something comforting to hear. At least someone's on my side.
She doesn't move, but in an instant she is much closer to you than she was. And she kind of presses her forehead against yours, and you kind of feel, you don't remember, but you kind of fall into her a bit, kind of nestling your head into the side of her neck. And you feel your wings kind of collapse into your back as her arms kind of embrace you. And even though she was smaller than you a moment ago, she feels bigger than you in an instant, and like a child hugging their mother. I'm the only one who is really on your side, Samira.
I try and pretend I believe her, but he doesn't.
Make a deception check with advantage, I'm going to say.
Thank God it's with advantage. Okay, I guess I'll go fuck myself either way. That dragon's gonna have such good deception. That is 13.
Let me pull up Tiamat's stuff.
It's like a
It's gonna
plus
have a-
42.
I was gonna say it's gonna have. It's a god. There's no way it can't
Where
have
it's
some
plus
stupid.
insight, so it's not deception.
It's wisdom. Oh, wisdom. Maybe.
You know what? It's not online, so I have to go get the Rise of Tiamat adventure and look in the back. So hold on. I mean, this is only her her physical manifestation stat block, but like, it's better than me making something up and then maybe screwing you. Okay. Plus, sorry, did you say it was wisdom? That's insight, isn't it?
Yeah, insight is wisdom.
I'm gonna re-roll again, but she has a plus 8 on the wisdom. 4 plus 8, 12.
I rolled a 13.
You get the sense. You almost get the sense, and it kind of, even though you were just, in your head, you were just lying to her. You get the sense she wasn't even really listening to what you were saying.
Fair enough. I'll stay in the same position and I'll start saying. So, I was the other prodigy then, the one I am destined to outdo.
She kind of, just in the blink of an eye, you're back to how you were. You're out of her embrace. You're standing maybe 10 feet apart. I don't like to tattle, Samira. You are different. I've never had a chosen who was not a dragon before. But I feel you will make it worth the risk.
You know the problem with dragons, don't you?
Problem with dragons.
Well, and I mean no offense, since you're 5 of them, and most
Of
likely
course.
have 5 times as much. But dragons always think they're the top of the food chain. Arrogance leads them into their own demise. And don't get me wrong, I don't think I'll ever be more powerful than a god. But dragons do.
You kind of see she's still smiling at you. So perceptive. So intelligent. Remember when they tried to turn you against me, Zamira, that if I wanted a pawn, I would not have chosen someone with your intellect.
I'll just look at her, see if she says anything else.
She kind of looks off into the darkness, almost surprised for a moment, and you hear in the distance kind of a clamour, like a muffled noise, and she... I must be off.
Have fun.
Ooh. There is another. And you see, like... Make an insight check.
Oh no. Well, that's a natural 1.
You can't really read much into it. You can't tell what she feels about this. But she says, watch yourself, Zamira. There is another chosen wherever you are. Not one of mine. Someone else's. Be well. And she kind of dissipates into the wind. Almost looking like when you use your... Sorry, what's it called? Your ability to turn invisible?
Dark embrace.
Dark embrace. The shadows consume her like a smoke cloud, and she's not there in an instant. And you kind of, you're left in her void. And yeah,
Do I have time in this void, or do I instantly kind of just sink out of the void?
you're still here for the moment.
I'll turn down to the water and I'll try and scoop some of the water up in one hand while kneeling, like one knee on the floor, one foot on the floor, like a proper like proposal sort of kneeling. My left hand on the knee of my left foot, or left leg, and my right hand just scooping up some water and just looking to see whether it's actually opaque or if it's black water or if it's just normal water in this circumstance.
You scoop it up and make an investigation check.
Ah, Jackson's coming back. That's a
He's
free.
back, baby. Three?
Typical rolls are back. Well, it's overall an 11.
11. Just in the few moments you have as you scoop the water, you see it's exceedingly shallow. And you see what looks like cobbled stone underneath the water. This appears to be, wherever you are, it appears to be some sort of imitation of a physical location, though you've got no idea where or why. And it's not familiar to you at all. The water seems almost like thin. It seems like inky water, as it kind of very quickly fades out of your hands, and you can very easily see through it. But there is that touch of black in there as it runs from your talons and falls back into the water. And as you're kind of cupping that water, you see lips form in the water, and the mouth kind of opens to say something. But we'll get back to that. Eartha, is there anything you want to do before bed or anything like that?
Pray like normal, and then just get ready and go.
Your eyes flicker awake to an unfamiliar landscape, not particularly detailed, just flat, endless, borderless, but a red sky, a glowing red horizon. And the only thing that breaks it is the form of an armored woman. Can't make out any details. She's just black, like the ground. Everything that isn't this glowing red sky, this almost mist-like, so thick and heavy. She doesn't move. She hasn't said anything. And yet you feel her eyes upon you.
Can I have like a glance around so like a proper... Just kind of try taking as much of the area as I can.
Sure, make a perception check.
Ooh, first roll of the day. Ooh. Let me get my calculator. 25. Not particularly high.
25.
It's pretty low.
You see this woman, and you start looking everywhere else. And it takes you a while. And you're not 100% sure. Until you see yourself. You're wearing nice clothes. Clothes you haven't seen before. Not yet. Finery. Something akin to a suit. Covered in blood. Splattered, drenched. Your boots, your nice shoes, soaked in it and crinkled in it. And as you look at the way the landscape around you moves, though it's featureless, it's just black, you get the feeling it's familiar. A home away from home, but not as relaxing. You feel on edge still. You feel like you should be comfortable here, but you're not. You feel like there are elements that should make you feel comfortable here, but they're not comfortable anymore. They're the opposite. They're antagonizing. They're pulling you in different directions. And as you're trying to take this in, that thing in the distance starts speaking, and it scares you for a minute because it's a woman. You can see it's a tall woman, but it speaks in a voice that's not what you would have expected. And that scares you for a moment, but then you recognize the voice as someone you're on good terms with. You recognize the voice is Toramesh, the druid from the Grove in Baldur's Gate. But it's not just Toramesh, it's also the voice of a woman you've never heard before. They speak over each other, like they're reading the same sentence at the same time. And at different points you hear Toramesh more than you hear this woman. And at different points you hear this woman more than you hear Toramesh. And it's maddening. But you don't need to hear what they're saying because you've already heard it. It's like you're being reminded of something. I see two children, twins not yet born. They weep as newborns do, but I see why they really cry. Their futures are decided. Perhaps you, son of fallen Simba, will be enough to dissuade the powers that be. Her figure on the horizon collapses, and now all you see is this red wall, this red mist. It looks to just be the sky, but it's so thick and it's so heavy, it almost swallows you. It's almost like a wall of light with a haze around it. It's hostile, but you feel like it's not supposed to be. And now her form is gone. You could tell it was an armored woman. You think you know who it is, though you know many armored women and you worship one of them. But she's gone now.
Still wetting, isn't it?
And then
At this ground, it's where the citadel would have been.
those words run through your head, the citadel. You look down, you're not wearing a suit anymore, you're wearing your armor. You blink and you're not wearing your armor anymore. You're wearing your old armor. You're not wearing the heavy armor they gave you. You're wearing the armor you'd worn before that, the armor you'd walked here from Jacinta in. You blink and you're back in your heavy armor. You blink and you're in your nightwear. You blink and you're awake, in bed, in Suzerain. Anya, is there anything you'd like to do before bed? Oh.
I was just gonna contact Jasper again and let him know that I was in Suzale.
Yeah, sure. You can read it out if you want, or we can just, if there's nothing else you want to add, we can just specifically say you
I
did
don't
it.
think it'll be 25 words long. I think it'll just be like, I'm in Suzale,
Sure.
on trial tomorrow. Where is this society based? When shall I meet you?
What a fantastic question. And I'd love to
Know the answer.
tell
I'd love to give you the answer, but I can't.
which is why I'm not checking any notes. I'm just... you hear Jasper. Return your message. And it's not there, son of a bitch. I know it's somewhere. Google! Son of a bitch. Okay. You hear Jasper's voice as you're kind of getting ready for bed and you send off the sending. You hear his kind of timid but familiar and comforting voice kind of come through to you. And, you know, not to get too specific, but, you know, he just says all the pleasantries, like, I'm glad you're safe. I hope everything goes okay. The society should not be hard to find. It's a very nice old mansion in a classic style. And he gives you kind of vague directions to it, tells you it's... Sorry. Tells you it's near the promenade, I believe. It's just off the promenade. And, you know, directions I can't give you. He'll give you kind of vague directions, or like I'm giving you vague directions. He gives you slightly more detailed directions. Yeah. So, yeah, but he tells you it's an old exclusive club, old luxurious mansion, just off the promenade. Biggest collection of knowledge, biggest library outside of Candlekeep. You should have no trouble, and he gives you some vague directions to it. So you should be able to find it fairly quickly along the promenade once you are free to roam. Yeah, and Anya gets a lovely night's sleep because she isn't fucking with any gods. She's just a normal person. So, Samara, the lips that have formed in the water that you cup in your hand, they begin to take form and rise out of you. And as you blink, you're holding Edward's face in your hand as he's kind of looming over you, and he's going, Samara, it's time to whip. And you kind of grab his face, and he's like, it's time to wake up.
I'll like pull my hand back and like look at it, and then look at it and go, very sorry. You know how it is. Dreams aren't always the most pleasant. Again, very sorry.
Nervous sleeper, I understand. Apologies, but the captain wants us mobilized, and then you both hear knocking on your door, and from the less familiar, Tsitsi and Janine, who wake you guys up and get you guys ready. So, you know, you get yourself ready for the day, put on, you'll be like, Ether, you have something you want to do?
Yeah, I like to cast Sending.
Sure.
To Mr. Amin. The guy who stole the key.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy. Long time no talk. By any chance, do you have a twin sister? I know a sister, but is she a twin? How many is that? That's 23.
That's it.
I was gonna say your good friend Eartha, but that's too much to end with.
Oh, yeah, well, you put some sort of affectation on it. You hear a kind of beleaguered, like, you don't think he was asleep, but waking up, similar to you. You have been doing your homework? No, I have no twin sister. But I think you know as well as I, we will see each other soon.
She, the lady.
And then you hear, in a mocking voice, your dearest friend, Gregor.
Oh, what a bitch. The woman. She was pregnant, wasn't she? The
Which woman?
the one who's his sister, the one at Temple.
Yes, when Anya had spent time with Verona and Caitlin's son, Uriel, who was Verona's husband, yeah, she was pregnant.
Did they know how many they have?
Not to your knowledge.
Shit.
This is gonna kill some kids.
It's a weird question. How many fucking in there? How many are not correct?
Stop poking her with a knife.
Imagine being a pregnant woman and just randomly in the morning you just hear a magic man's voice you don't know very well being like, "You having twins then, hun?"
Oh no, I'm not sending her, but I'm gonna do what I did to Raphael and just keep sending this guy every now and then just to annoy him. Sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes during the day. Just out of the blue here and there now.
We need to get to a combat ground. We can practice a spell, by the way, Alice.
Oh no.
I can ask something.
Yeah.
These twins that are mentioned, are these like have they been born yet, or is it just they're going to be born?
I'll reread it on a voice just so you can get the information that what you know. So Toramesh had said in like session 3 or 4, so like a year ago. I see 2 children, twins, not yet born. They weep as newborns do, but I see why they really cry. Their futures are decided, but perhaps you, meaning Aether, son of fallen Simbar, will be enough to dissuade the powers that be. And obviously you'd each gotten one of those prophecies where Toramesh had peeled some of this bleeding bark from this tree in his garden, and he'd given you each this prophetical vision, but that was Aether's. So yeah, that seems to indicate that they haven't been born, and it's a vision of the future when he's seeing them crying. Samara,
Yes.
make a perception check on your side.
I feel like I need to make a mind map.
Yeah.
So sad.
Welcome to D&D.
It was on 18 and it rolled that way, then rolled back, and then rolled back again and landed on 2. So that's an 8
Wonderful.
in total.
Wonderful. That's fine. You said you were going to like make yourself look pretty today, right?
Yeah, I was gonna bristle up my feathers, really make myself look nice and presentable.
When Edward is kind of just hanging around in your room, so like Tsitsi knocked on Anya's door, Janine knocked on Aether's door, but Edward kind of feels comfortable with you, so he kind of came in to like kind of jostle you awake. And just as you're getting ready, you're standing in front of a basin, kind of wringing out a towel and washing your feathers a bit and kind of flattening them down. And there's kind of a mirror in front in this like, there's not like a bathroom, it's just like in the corner of the room there's like this freestanding mirror, and you know these rooms are just one room, and you see you can see Edward's reflection in the mirror as he's just kind of sitting on a chair in your room, and he says, "Who's the girl?"
Sorry, what do you mean?
He kind of stands up and he walks towards you. He walks towards the mirror and he kind of breathes on it. And he kind of noticed it when you'd been kind of working with the hot water and pressing your feathers down. You know when someone writes something with their finger on a mirror and then when it gets steamed up, you can see something in it?
Yeah.
You see written on the mirror in someone's finger, "The girl will try to stop you."
Okay. It's
He kind of looks at you and he's like, "You don't have fingers."
Look, I can do it with my elbow.
Weird.
It's to do with the dream. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you, but I keep having this dream about this girl and this woman, this lady. And she keeps telling me some weird stuff.
You see at this point, Tsitsi is kind of leaning in the doorway, and he says, "They always do." And he kind of brushes off and goes to rendezvous with the captain, and leaves Edward with you.
I turn to Edward and say, "How long have I got? Have I got to leave now, or have I got to?"
You got like 20 minutes.
Oh, I don't know if that's enough time. Let me quickly have a look. I want to see if I can cast Find Familiar before I leave, basically.
Okay.
But I think Find Familiar takes a while. Yeah, it's an hour, so I don't have time. That's fine.
Okay, no worries. Sure. So you kind of finish off getting ready, and you see Edward kind of like he's looking up and down the mirror, seeing if there's anything else written, and then he kind of just shrugs. And yeah, so you guys all get ready. Just shout out if there's anything else you want to do. But otherwise, so you walk out onto the promenade in this nice, crisp, but underlying warm. You're now in you're on a coast, but the Dragonmere is more of a lake than an ocean. I mean, it's huge and it's partly saltwater, but it's, it doesn't get as furious a storm as Baldur's Gate or Westgate or Waterdeep or Luthchek or Port Nyanzaru. So it's quite warm here. It's like obviously Port Nyanzaru is warm because it's tropical, but you've just come through a long winter, and a lot of you have been traveling in that winter as well. So this is a nice, refreshing change as you're in the nice green Cormier. It's called the Forest Kingdom to outsiders. It's a very lush place, and there's that nice crisp. It's not windy, but there's that nice crisp chill on the air that kind of gets you standing upright, and it puts that like fresh air circulating through your lungs. But there's that nice underlying warmth that makes you want to go outside, makes you want to look around. And you see immediately opposite, on the other side of the promenade, from the entrance into the Myrmidon, you see that the royal court is a sprawling complex of interconnected buildings that has been expanded over the centuries and houses all of the legal and administrative functions of Cormier and beyond. And beyond it, like looming over it, like I said, is the Palace of the Purple Dragon. It's this fantastical castle with numerous spires, balconies, promenades, and fluttering pennants surrounded by the forested royal gardens. These topiary hedges and trees, and Lake Azun, and these nice paths and little bridges, and fresh-cut grass. It contains more than 100 halls, rooms, and chambers, all decorated in royal purple, as well as countless corridors and, no doubt, secret pirate passages, hidden vaults, castle shit. And so, you go into that area today. That's where you are today. You're in the royal court, and it's a very lovely area. And walking towards the court, the lower buildings, way before the castle, where the judiciary day-to-day things are done. You get to walk through these gardens. You see some frogs bopping in and out of lakes and ponds. Butterflies coming down to little flower patches, little squirrels and shrew running out of hedges and topiary trees. It's a very nice place. So you see this very elaborate main entrance that is currently open, and you can see inside what is clearly like, if you imagine like in like Game of Thrones or like anything fantasy, like a throne room where the king or the queen would deliver justice. You see down at the far end, this kind of narrower than it is wide, longer than it is wide, with these big, huge purple curtains on either side of this huge hall, and at the end, a throne with these big stained glass windows behind it with light streaming in. And there is something of a crowd in there, but you also see the actual court gathered, and you can see someone on the throne, which you assume is the queen, but it is the distance off. And you assume that's where you're going, but Captain DuPont kind of steers you in another direction. as you enter in through a side door. And inside, you see the white garnished walls with gold trimming and purple drapage and stuff like that. Drapery, sorry. As you walk down this long hallway, and DuPont says, I think it's best that you spend some time in the... you wait before you are called to court in the... And he kind of looks at Edward. Take them to the Shrine of the Four Swords. I will come for you when it is time. And he kind of pulls away from you as Edward and Janine, but not Tsitsi at the minute. Tsitsi is not present. Edward and Tsitsi. Janine is not present. So the young human man and the kind of adult tiefling, both men, lead you to this Shrine of the Four Swords. If anyone wants to, they can make a history check. But you're not from Cornwall. Sure.
Oh, that's pretty good. 24.
I mean, unless it's something everyone that's would have told me about. There's no way I'd know about it.
Sure. What did you get, sorry, Eartha?
24. And I feel like Eartha may know because he's probably read.
But by the name, you get that military sense. So, the shrine is home to Cormier's four swords of state, the weaponry of the nation's regalia. Unlike with the throne, crowns, and rods of the realm, people are allowed to approach weapons of Cormier openly. However, attempting to remove the crystal domes covering the plinths on which the weapons rest calls forth the guards, war wizards, and an ear-piercing alarm. Benches line the central chamber of the shrine, allowing visitors to rest in contemplation. When a member of the royal family dies, his or her body lies in state here in accordance with the family's wishes. And then off from this central chamber, there's like little narrow hallways that go into sub-chambers, one for each of these four. There are four of these legendary swords that are part of Cormier's thing. So you can, as Edward and Tsitsi kind of walk you in there, and they kind of just loiter around you as they're waiting. If you want, you can just pass the time, or you guys can go and investigate the swords if you have any interest. What would you guys like to do? Or you can talk to Edward and Tsitsi, or you can, what would you like to do? So you're in this kind of elaborate white and gold and purple drapery chamber with these sub-chambers that go off, where one for each sword.
Now I turn to Edward and ask, so if this is some sort of artifact room, as I presume, since they're all in containers, do you guys not... I know obviously you keep them in storage probably most of the time, because they're most likely highly dangerous and super powerful artifacts, but I mean, what if a war breaks out or something like that? Is it at that point maybe your highest ups come and use these weapons? There's no point of them going to waste if it's life or death.
Yeah. A sword is a sword. They have different uses now, I suppose. And he kind of points down one of the corridors. That's the Shrine of Rissar. Rissar. That's the Shrine of Rissar. It's also known as the Wedding Blade. And you can kind of see in there, the walls of the Wedding Blade's room are hung with small, little trinkets. You see, all covering the walls. He might as well. He takes you guys in there. If you're not interested, you can stay in the main chamber, but otherwise, him and Samara go in there, and if anyone else wants to, you can follow them into the Shrine of Rissar. You see the walls are completely covered in, little bits. Handkerchiefs, feathers, locks of hair. These are all little mementos of royal courtship. Kings and queens, princes and princesses who have been engaged before the wedding blade have left their mementos of courtship. Yeah. And you can see this blade beneath this crystal dome, very beautifully ornate. The wedding blade, Rissar.
I'll turn to him and I'll say, well, it is surely a wonderful place that all these rooms are decorated clearly, highly, and it's very nice, but I mean, if it came to war, a normal blade or a magic blade, if it's an artifact or not, I like to take my best chances.
I know not much of magic properties. They are magic, to be sure, but I don't know what their abilities are. I'm not learned in that.
I guess no offense, but I guess that's most likely for the top men of the military.
I suppose. And I suppose if they are truly powerful in the face of certain doom, I'm sure they would be wielded, if that is the case. Any kind of Earth and Anya, did you follow them in, or did you stay in the main chamber?
Yeah, I probably just sat in the main chamber for now.
Cool. He says to you then, Samara, do you care to see the rest, or would you like to wait with your friend?
I mean, we have nothing better to do, and I do like to learn.
Very well. He kind of leads you to the next three. So the next one is the Shrine of Ansravar. This is the oldest of the four swords of Cormier. Ansravar lies beneath these heraldic shields, 5 in total, but a bit different. So it lies beneath the 5 heraldic shields. 4 of them are royal houses. The first one is Oberskier, so the current queen is an Oberskier. The second one is Crown Silver, the third one is True Silver, and the fourth one is Hunt Silver, different houses. The shield of House Hunt Silver has been hung askew, so it's been turned to the side. And that indicates, Edward will explain to you, that indicates that there is no current heir to that house, so it's like its future is uncertain, so it's been turned askew. And there is a 5th shield, which has been covered with a black sheet, and he tells you that beneath it is the insignia of House Bleth. But they've been like covered up to indicate that family's like treachery and exile and those kind of things. He leads you on to the next one. The Shrine of Orblin. The sword Orblin is known as the Edge of Justice. Its shrine has no decoration except for a pair of torn cloths hanging from either side, one red and the other black. So pretty much just the sword in the middle of the room under its protective case, and a tattered and torn black curtain hanging from one side, and a tattered and torn red curtain hanging from the other. And the final shrine, the Shrine of Similazar. The blade, called Cormier's Fount of Honor, rests in a clean, bare room. Unlike the other swords of state, Similazar is never found in its sheath, to better show off its finely etched blade. So all the other ones are still sheathed in their scabbard, but this one is out of its scabbard with it lying underneath. Directly across from the shrine's entrance, the armorial shields of the last knight or noble house to be raised by the crown hangs above the plinth on which Similazar rests. So basically, the kind of effects and shield and armor of the last knight to wield it kind of is also in the room with it. And then you guys return to the kind of middle and kind of, unless there's anything else anyone wants to say, wait for.
Can I just say to Edward, I'm surprised you even kept any memory of the house, which sorry, already forgot its name. You know, there was quite a lot of information to take in. That house,
the one that like
treacherous.
the dishonored one,
Yeah.
Bleth, House Bleth. Actually, make a history check, Samara.
What's it? 19 plus 8, I believe, which would be 12. 7.
You've heard of House Bleth. You know they are currently a powerful house in Westgate.
Fair enough. I'm surprised we even kept their stuff. Most cities would just get rid of something off a treacherous house, never mind to keep it in such an important room like this. It's, to be honest, it's commendable of your city to honor history and intelligence over arrogance and pride.
You see something you saw last night, a swell of pride as he stands up a bit taller and he kind of brushes that blonde hair back and kind of scratches it a bit. And he's like, yes, history is important, good or bad. We honor both here. We honor the truth. And he kind of gives you a firm nod. At this point, Captain Dupont kind of comes striding back in and he kind of, it's time. Please through here. And you walk in to that room I described before, this throne room, but from not through that main door, kind of from a side door, and you kind of pull through the curtains to be at the back of the crowd. So the Chamber of the Purple Dragon is one of the oldest human-built sites in Cormier. The throne room of the realm. It is the location of ceremonies of investiture, royal proclamations, some weddings and funerals. Thick purple curtains line the walls, and massive windows back it, with that, the stained glass and that stained light kind of pouring through from behind the throne. Standing taller than any knight, the dragon throne is a dark, imposing seat carved in the likeness of a great worm. On it, the queen sits, and kind of loitering about to her sides, you see her kind of chiefs of state. And like you'll kind of pick up that one of them is the Lord Magister and the other is his herald. Could you all make an intelligence or perception check?
Can we choose?
Yes.
I
I think that's probably why I said or.
was just making sure. But
my intelligence is 5. Oh, actually, my perception is 6 if we're using sight. So am I using sight?
Yay!
Jess is winning.
Am I
so
using sight with my perception?
First roll of the
Yes,
time.
sorry, yeah, it is sight. Irtha, what was yours?
natural 20.
For a total of?
39.
Very nice. Samara?
Ah, you'll never believe it.
2.
Natural 1.
It's an 11.
Oh.
Very nice. And Anya?
23.
23. So, Samara, you don't see this. You're kind of talking to Edward. Anya and Irtha, you kind of turn to look at each other as the herald is this pretty woman. To describe her more than that. She appears to be like a courtier. She looks of like familiar stock. Long blonde hair. She looks intelligent, ambitious. She complements very much the Lord Magister. She's his herald. He's very much a gruff older man, salt and pepper hair, very gruff, broad. But Irtha and Anya, you look at each other because you recognize that woman. You traveled with her for a bit. And then you realize that's not who you traveled with, because who you traveled with was a doppelganger who was impersonating someone else. And you see this woman kind of hands kind of clasped in front of her and kind of listening to the debate that is currently happening in the royal court. And this Lord Magister, this gruff older man, kind of lying back, and he's just like waving his hand at what's happening. Could all of you make a second perception check? Samurai, you have advantage on this one. And the Queen, you can't read anything on the Queen's face. She's slightly older, she's in her 30s, but she is sitting tall, wearing a very fine dress and the crown of Cormier, and she's got kind of very intricately braided light brown hair. So what were your perception checks? Irtha?
30.
30, Samara?
Well, I did better this time.
12.
I got 13.
Oh.
13. And Anya?
4.
4. Samara and Anya, you aren't paying attention to this. Anya, you are swept up by seeing Flora's face again, but who you suspect to be Eleanor, the...
Mean Fleur.
Say again, sorry?
Do you mean Fleur?
Yeah, sorry. It's been a while. It's been a while. You see your friend for a time, Fleur, who you suspect to be Eleanor, the individual she had been not impersonating, but like the individual she had chose to mimic as her human appearance. So you're kind of distracted by that. Samara, you're kind of having a quiet conversation at the back with Edward. But Irtha, you catch what's currently happening in the court, and you think it's kind of relevant based on some things you've heard other people say, but you quickly get the sense that no one else has heard it. You see this young knight. He looks to be a knight. He's wearing armor, and he's wearing he looks very self-assured. He's kind of got very short, cut brown, or maybe dark, dirty blonde hair. no facial hair, very cleanly trimmed, and he's standing very tall, and he's kind of got his hand on his sword, and he's very passionate, but you can see your companions are not paying attention to this. You hear him say, "I warn you, your majesty, he is a plague upon our fair land. You will regret this, all of you." And he points at the whole court and the crowd as well. "Avarandak's storm scourge would see us all dead." And he storms out of the, like, he storms through the crowd, and you see him march through those huge double doors, and you kind of hear some giggling from among the crowd, and the queen kind of looks to the Lord Magister, the gruff older man, and he just kind of waves his hand as he kind of returns to a normal position. And the herald, who you recognize as Fleur or Eleanor, shouts, "Next, I believe we are waiting on Captain Reynard Dupont and the witnesses of some travesty in the Dragonmere. Dupont, are you here?" And Dupont kind of raises a hand. "We are here, Your Majesty, Lord Magister, and lovely Herald. These are..." and he kind of approaches and kind of clicks for you to come forward with him. And the crowd, not a huge crowd, maybe like 20 people at most, but this is a huge space. It's like a cathedral in here, so it looks smaller. And you see like semblances of like a jury in a court kind of sprinkled about. And then at the end of the hall, the Lord Magister, the Herald, and the Queen on the throne in the middle. As you approach along this long purple carpet and the long purple curtains. "This is, what are your full names?" He kind of says quietly. He kind of, Anya, he points to you.
Anya Endran.
And he points to you, Samara.
Just Samara.
He gives you a nod. And then you, Eartha.
Eartha separate.
And do any of you have any titles that would be to name in a court?
Slave as bait.
And kind of very quickly trying to recover. "This is Anya Enduran, Samura, and Eartha Cerebasbane separate. All of you make a perception check."
Shit.
I don't know why slave was
Yes.
being really. Oh, for fuck's sake! It's a
That is his
natural
title.
one.
Can I ask something? Because I think I must have written it down wrong.
Sure.
So I've got written down, which it's I think I've just gotten the names confused. But so I've got written down that Eleanor is Fleur's mother. Ellen is the woman that Fleur wanted to kill, and then Lelianor is the granddaughter of Aurora. So is it Ellen? Is it?
Yeah, it's just to be honest, it might have been like that at the time, but they're such similar names, I might confuse them at this point. But just going forward, assume it's the other way around. I can't remember.
Okay.
You know, that was like 8 months ago. No memory. But yeah, but no, good note keeping.
Just so I can if I'm like, I don't know if I'm just writing it down in the future.
No. It was probably me mixing them up because they're similar names, which is my own fault. But
to be fair, there's Ellen, Eleanor, and Lelianor.
I do this to myself. I mean, some of them are law names, but I chose to include them, so it's my fault. Sorry. So, Eartha, what was your perception check there?
Let me quickly do the maths again.
Yeah, no worries. Samurai, what was yours?
Good old-fashioned natural one.
Wow, you're having a bad day. And Anya, what was your perception check?
12.
27.
27. Eartha, again, you're the only one that catches this. Just as Anya and Samurai seemingly haven't noticed the mention of an Adirondax in the court. You notice, you don't know at what point, but you notice nods of recognition to all of your names. You don't know what they recognized, but they recognize something. You see like some nods pass between courtiers and people, and even the queen, you see, gives a nod to her herald as some sort of recognition.
No words, just nods.
Yeah, just kind of polite little nods of recognition, but you don't know to who they recognized. Captain Dupont finishes. They will quickly, I am sure, bear testimony to the events my messenger had described in the Dragonmere, the possible return of Caesar, the blue kraken of legend. Mr. Seplet, please Address the Queen as Her Majesty, he kind of whispers, and tell her what you saw.
Where would you like me to begin? I'm going to say that to the captain.
Begin with the attack. No need for pointless detail.
So, Your Majesty, and I'll do like a little bow. Me and my associates were aboard the ship set for... Oh no! Where are we set for?
You do it, I believe it. I've said the name this session, but that's
I know, but...
What we're trying to find?
Try to find the name of where the ship was actually going before it was destroyed.
I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere.
I'm gonna let him struggle.
What am I know?
Because I totally know it.
You can make an intelligence check if you want.
Please.
Hell, I don't think I wrote it down.
May as well make one.
14.
I got the same.
If as you're kind of like, you stammer for a moment, and then you remember Marzemba, and just as you remember it, you hear Samara whisper Marzemba, and you go like, I know, and you say it, Marzemba.
Yes, we were on a ship going to Marzemba, and as we were going around, we were below deck at the time. It was quite early in the morning, and we heard bells going and people shouting. The ship rocked a bit. I'm like, oh, that's a bit weird. Probably a storm or something. We'll go up and have a look, So we went up, and all of a sudden, this small ship, which apparently was tailing us, just got launched into our ship. And then out of nowhere, these blue tentacles start coming up from the sides and attacking us all. We pretty much died that day. The only thing that saved us was a scroll of Dominate monster that we had found on our previous journey.
You see this gruff older man. He kind of walks down the steps. The throne is kind of on an elevation, higher up. And he kind of walks down the steps from his place at the side of the throne. Not all the way down, like halfway down. His hand kind of resting on his sword. Which god do you subscribe to, young one?
The Red Knight.
Kind of bows his head. Most military leaders or militants in general, if they don't worship the Red Knight, usually they've been told or tutored by a cleric or a paladin of the Red Knight, just because, it's kind of their shebang. Mm-hmm. He kind of bows his head in reverence and says, "Very honourable, Your Majesty. I trust his word," as he kind of returns to the side of the throne. "Continue," the Queen kind of utters loudly as it kind of echoes throughout the chamber.
No worries. I mean, I'm going to go into detail into I'm going to try exaggerate, but I'm going to be like, this thing was not a normal kraken. I mean, I've never come across a normal kraken, but if this thing is a normal kraken, then stuff's going to go bad, because I faced ancient green dragons and lived, but this thing controlled weather. It was it was there, all stormy and stuff, lightning hitting us. That bird, he got hit 3 times by lightning in a row. He died.
You hear the herald, Eleanor, the younger blonde woman, on the other side of the throne. "Dare you estimate how many dead?"
Am I allowed to jump in?
About 400,
Sure.
Yeah.
It was an entire boat's worth of crew, so probably 40 people plus. It had about 100 people below deck as well.
You hear the older man, the Lord Magister. 100 people below deck. What kind of vessel was this?
It had slaves aboard. We were actually working on stopping it.
Shock kind of rustles throughout the crowd.
Just stand and just itch my head.
And his gaze turns to the Queen, and to Marzemba, no less. "Your Majesty, we should..." And the Queen kind of raises her hand. "I know what must be done to Marzemba, Edwin." And the Lord Magister kind of turns to look out across you all again. 100 or more dead. Their corpses will begin washing up on our shores soon enough.
Can I kind of
Edwin?
like put my hand up, like kind of like look at the floor at the same
The
time?
herald kind of shouts, "Speak."
I don't know if the bodies will start showing up. What were they called? They were the marrow. Yeah, the marrow. Started taking them. They would have taken us too, but luckily we fought them off. And then as soon as we fought them off, the gracious captain here managed to drag us aboard.
The Magister, the Lord Magister, Edwin. Aye, marrow are a nuisance, but they will take some, and animals will take others, but some will wash up, Your Majesty, I suspect. And then she kind of turns her head. Well, we have little way of differentiating slaves from the crew after the ocean has had its effect, so any body that washes up on Cormier's coast in the next 2 weeks is to be given an honourable funeral. You understand, Lord Magister? And Edwin kind of nods, and then he looks at his herald, and the herald Eleanor kind of jots something down. And the Queen kind of returns to look at all three of you. Thank you for coming before the court. You are most honourable for Outlanders. And Cormier thanks you. I, Queen Raedra of Cormier, thank you. You may be on your way unless you have nothing to ask of this court. Very well.
Eartha's like holding back so many questions, but knows that you should not ask any of these questions.
Make a stealth check.
I'm so fucking happy.
14. Well, he's not like breaking to like say them. He's like he wants to say them, but knows he shouldn't.
The Lord Magister, the gruff older man, says, "If you've got something to say, boy, just say it. This is a free court. If you have questions, ask them."
A lot of you seem to recognize at least one of us. I was just curious which one you knew and how you knew of them.
You see, kind of giggling, kind of start filtering throughout the crowd. And then the Queen kind of smiles and looks to her herald. And the herald calls, "Everyone knows of the great bard Jasper Enderan. He is most famous in the city."
Oh.
I was not expecting that. I was literally, okay.
I was
Terrified.
expecting.
He walked into an Avirondex fucking stuff. I was getting killed.
That's what I was expecting. I didn't know that was.
But I expected me the least to be known, because I'm boring.
The herald kind of focuses in on you, Anya, and she says, "Next time you're in a tavern or an alehouse, you might want to ask any of the local troubadours if they'd play Jasper's Ballad of Little Sisters. I believe it must be about you unless you have more." And the Queen kind of calls, "If there are any more questions, you may ask them. If not, you may go about your day."
No. It's alright, thank you. Thank you for seeing us. And I like bow.
She nods her head firmly.
Can I awkwardly be like starting to kind of like a little bit oblivious, and then I see her for bow, and I just like quickly bow and then come back up, just like try and match his time.
She just nods, but the Lord Magister, the older man, echoes her words. "This court of Cormier thanks the Outlanders for their presence. Enjoy our city. Enjoy our country. If you intend to stay." And he kind of opens his hand out as to indicate you may leave. And Captain DuPont says, "Well, we may be on our way." And he kind of pats one or two of you on the back and kind of begins to walk you out.
I like to turn to these two and go, "That's a good name for our group, the Outlanders. There we go.
Hate
Yeah,
you.
Anya?
Random question, but what class and race is the queen?
So the queen is human, but besides from player characters, people don't really have classes. She's kind of just so her stat block would be something along the line of noble. She's not particularly like martially trained or magically trained or anything, to your knowledge. But yeah, she's not really like an adventuring class. She's just the queen. She's like like NPCs and player characters, just kind of, they're built differently. But yeah, you don't get the sense you get the sense she could probably wield a sword and wear armor and be kind of intimidating. She is fairly tall and fairly broad. But you don't get the sense she's like super martially famous, and you haven't heard of her being capable of magic or anything. So yeah, Captain DuPont, Tsitsi, and Edward, the young man. I kept saying Edwin before because I knew the Lord Magister was called Edwin, so I kept saying Edwin. No, Edward. So Edward kind of they walk out with you into the gardens through that big door you had originally seen, and Captain DuPont says, "Well, if you have need of me, find me, but otherwise I must return to my duties. The sea is calling. I bid you adieu." And he kind of begins to trot off. But Tsitsi kind of looms behind Edward, and Edward says, "So, what are your plans next?"
I guess it's just time to enjoy the city for a little bit and find someone's, and I'll nudge her on the shoulder saying it a little bit, find someone's famous brother, apparently.
He is most famous here. I didn't know you were the little sister from the ballad for Little Sisters. I didn't know. Everyone has little sisters. I don't want to assume. You do look like him, though. Same freckles, same eyes. Regardless. Well, I hope you find him soon. I think he plays in many taverns. He's played in the court before, and he's played before the Queen. I'm not sure where you could find him. Where he will be in the Enderan Lounge, more than likely.
Did you say Enderan Lounge?
Yes, named for... Oh, I suppose it's in the Society of Stalwart Adventurers.
It's got a lounge.
Well, it's not his, it's his, I suppose your parents it's named for. It's like Lawrence and Jennifer or something like that. Everyone calls it the Enderan Lounge.
No, it's like I remember my own parents' names in this. I don't even remember.
It's not like they're real. They're not going to cry about it. And they're dead, so you know.
Oh, that's true.
Genevieve and Lawrence. But yeah, he's not utterly affiliated. Yeah, colloquially. Basically, he kind of explains the Society of Stalwart Adventurers is like an adventurers club, and very famous adventurers get like lounges named after them, where people can kind of gather and discuss and stuff like that. And he just speculates Jasper might be found there. And he kind of looks at Tsitsi and he's like, well, otherwise, and he kind of puts a hand out, and mainly at you, Samara, unless you've anything else to ask or have of us, we should be on our way as well.
I have a question.
Can I help?
They were talking about Storm Scourge in there. What was that on about?
Samara, you hear this for the first time. I'm not familiar. And he looked at Tsitsi, and Tsitsi's like, sounds like a prick, but not familiar with the name. And he kind of looks down at Edward, who names their child, would allow their child to walk around with the name Stormscourge. And they both kind of shrug. So, not familiar with him. I'm not sure who that was. He looked impetuous, probably noble. That chap who stormed out of the court before us, but I'm not familiar with him. And Tsitsi shakes his head as well. Can't help you, I'm afraid.
Nah, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Right. We'll be off. And they kind of begin walking away, but Samara, you've heard this mention of Storm Scourge for the first time.
I will turn to Samurai and go, right, buddy, I didn't want to mention it in there purely because they looked as though they're having something to say about him being bad, such as he'll bring the downfall to this full country kind of bad. So I didn't want to say that.
What you'd heard was this young, impetuous man saying that, but the court kind of laughed him out.
Yeah, so the court don't believe it, but this man's like hell-bent that, you know, he could do that. And I didn't want you to get caught up in that just in case, especially when, you know, we could have just gone in and walked out. Plus, they didn't seem to know too much about him, so at least we're getting closer.
When I was in Westgate, I found out my father has a brother. Unfortunately, the lady I talked to, it was her first hearing of it too, so if that is true, and it's a real brother, I'll try and like whisper it so nobody else hears. We may have two ancient blue dragons on our hands.
Well, let's hope you can talk it over with him. I want to pat him on the back and start wandering in one direction, even if it's the wrong direction, to this lounge. Just start going that way. And wait for someone.
Start heading back to the promenade, start heading out of the gardens and back to that main thing that kind of links the whole city, the promenade, and hoping you can kind of piece your way there. But nice spring day ahead of you, new city, new country, new chapter in your adventure here. The city is yours. Is that the plan? Are you heading to this society next, or is there anywhere else you'd like to go or look for?
I'm down for this society.
Sure. So you begin looking for this, what Anya had probably passed on in bits that Jasper had explained as, and probably Edward kind of coloured it in as well, this old, luxurious, freestanding mansion. Used to be a noble household, but has been converted into an adventurous society. You begin to make your way to the promenade with this in mind, and we'll pick up there next session.